So when you're choosing a place to go on a big vacation, there are a lot of things to consider from the outset. First of all, how familiar are you with travel in general? How comfortable are you with travel? Have you ever traveled outside of the country? Have you ever traveled to the country you're going to? For example, I've been to Italy a number of times. I'm very comfortable traveling in Italy. But I've never been to Scotland, and they drive on the opposite side of the road. So I've driven in Italy, but I've not driven in Scotland on the opposite side of the road, or in any place where they drive on the opposite side of the road. So that's going to be definitely a learning point for me. You need to consider what time of year is the best. Consider weather. Consider any festivals that they might have. For example, Scotland has a huge fringe festival in Edinburgh during August every year, and I have been told by my colleagues who live in Edinburgh that basically the population of the city swells to 3 times its size. My husband and I don't prefer crowds, and while we would love to see the military tattoo there that takes place during the fringe festival, we are kind of balancing whether we want to see it badly enough to be in a throng of that many people. So definitely things to consider and know about travel patterns and weather in the country you're going to. You don't want to show up in a place like Scotland with nothing but shorts and t-shirts. You're going to be cold. My friends there assure me it is always cold and wet, with rare exception. Let's see, so how comfortable are you with travel? Have you been out of the country before? Have you been to this country? Deciding when to travel. What else? Oh, what aspects of culture are you familiar with? Because when we as Americans travel to other countries, I have seen people give our nation a bad name. I was traveling once in a student group. I had a group of students with me, and we were partnered with another group of students. And there were some students from other states, other schools on this trip who behaved as if it were a Miami Beach spring break, even in cathedrals and basilicas in cities throughout Italy, and it was embarrassing. So one thing to consider is, what are the cultural norms of this place I'm going to, and how can I show respect for those cultures and for those people in a way that I can represent myself and my country well, and not cause them to dislike visitors and people who are to them foreigners from other countries. And that, studying the appropriate clothing and attire and behaviors for certain locations you're visiting. Do you need to wear a head covering? Do you need to cover your shoulders? Some cultures celebrate their festivals with exuberance, while some cultures celebrate very somberly. And understanding those and researching those cultural norms, or having a good travel advisor who can advise you on those cultural norms, can really have an impact on your trip and the way that people treat you while you're on your trip. Also, tying into the culture aspect is the language. I have found in my travels that while Spanish was my minor in high school, so I am functional in Spanish, but languages such as Italian are easy to learn because of my foundation in Spanish. German is a whole other ballgame, even though there are many English words that are similar to it because English is a Germanic language. But regardless, I have found that when I try to use a foreign language, even though it might be laughable, the people to whom I am speaking genuinely engage with me, and they genuinely appreciate that I'm trying to respect their culture enough to speak their language. It seems to me that they must get a lot of visitors who don't do that, who apparently expect them to be able to speak our language instead of us, when we go to their country, being able to speak their language. So at least consider learning some of the basic languages, and any travel guidebook in that language is gonna be able to help you with that. Or there are great learning tools such as Rosetta Stone or BABBLE, or even DUOLINGO, which is an app on the phone, can can teach you some basic words and phrases and sentence constructions. So take time to learn the language. So I'm going to keep this one short, but just a few things to consider. Are you willing to do those things when you go to a foreign country? Maybe you're more comfortable going to a country where they do speak English. Or maybe you're more familiar going to a country that has a climate similar to one you're familiar with. Maybe you're more comfortable going to a country where they drive on the same side of the road as you're used to driving on. If you have questions about different places you want to visit, shoot me an email, because I research all the time. One of the reasons I absolutely love helping people plan travel is because I am a learner and a researcher down to my core. I would be a professional, well, now I am a professional student, right? And I love that aspect of helping people plan travel. And when I don't know personally, or I have not researched it enough and connected with people to find out, then I will be honest with you about that, and I will find someone who has been there or who can advise you properly, because I feel like that's really important when we're engaging in international travel. So in the comments below, what do you think is the most challenging part of international travel? Have you been to a country where you were faced with a situation you didn't expect? And what might have helped you had you known before? Thank you for watching, and I'll see you real soon.